Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about something that I think is interesting. And I'm not telling you that this is what you should draw all your conclusions from by any means. I want to get that out of the way. But I do find it interesting because people get on these topics about health, longevity, all this stuff with diets, and what they are denying. And again, I'm not saying this means everything, but they're denying that the longest lived society that we've known of in the modern era, the Okinawans, have a diet that has almost no fat. It is almost exclusively carbohydrate. It's moderate protein, ultra high carb, very, very low fat. All right. And I'm not saying things like the Mediterranean diet, some of that stuff hasn't done really well, because it has, and it is a little different. But even those diets are low fat and high carb. All right, and again, we need to be very, very clear on that. When you start looking at epidemiology, there's a trend there. People who have, and societies who have very high fat intakes don't have the best lifespans, and they don't have the best health. You know, yet people want to have these conversations. And I'm not saying this to demonize fat or to say all fat bad. What I'm saying is that carbs are good. And what I'm saying is that people have overstated the need for dietary fat. They've vastly overstated it. Because irrespective of genetics, because obviously genetics are a factor there, a society that has dietary deficiencies will not have extreme lifespans, okay? And we need to be clear there. You're not going to see the longest lived societies with very great average health markers if there's dietary deficiencies. So, you know, we will have these conversations about how much fat do we need in our diet, because fat is essential. And it is, but only certain fats are essential, and you only need a few grams of them. And that's the point people are missing. All right. Monounsaturated fats and saturated fats are not essential in any way. They're not. They're not required for you to eat a single gram. In theory, your body can produce unlimited amounts of those as needed, if it needs them for any purpose. There is no actual dietary need for it. And I'm not saying there can't be some benefits, but when we've got a question of those benefits when they're only eaten in trace amounts in the longest lived society on earth, who have great health markers and low disease. You couldn't eat very much of them. There may not be very many real benefits to much of them, because you wouldn't see that. So how much fat do we really need? Now keep in mind all their sources are high in omega-3. Because they eat, you know, some seafood. And again, for vegans chime in, they're not vegans. Don't claim they're a vegan diet. Their diet's heavily plant-based, but it's not vegan. They absolutely eat meat. They eat eggs. Just not in large amounts. Their diet is 6% fat, with a bias towards omega-3 in it because of the choices. But their vegetables and stuff have that. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. If you're eating a lot of vegetables, you know, and even some whole grains and tubers, you're getting omega-3 fats. So people do need to be aware of that. Percentage-wise, the fats in those foods tend to be very, very high in polyunsaturated fats, and bias towards omega-3. All right? But total fat, what do you need? Like, how much fat do you need in your diet to live to be 100 years old or older on average for a society? Apparently it's 6%. That is extremely low. And then you have people who do like the Pritikin diet and stuff, and some of these other medical diets on ultra insane low fat are in pretty good health. All right? So we don't need a lot of fat in our diet. I'm not saying we don't need it. We obviously need it. We don't need a lot. Conversely, people love to bring up the Inuits, but they have actually a terrible life expectancy on their normal diet. Now, people say, yeah, but they don't have modern medicine, they didn't, and that's why. Well, yeah, that's absolutely a factor. But they're still a very short-lived society. And that's on the other extreme, right? You're looking at which culture ate the most fat. It has a below-average life expectancy. Diet that is almost all carbs and extremely low fat is your highest life expectancy. Now, there's some others that are a little more moderate, such as some of the Mediterranean type diets and things, and they do well. So I don't want to discount that. But just be aware of these facts. All right? Very high carbohydrate, low fat diets are generally linked, especially if they're whole foods, obviously. We're not talking about table sugar. No one's telling you, oh, he's saying to eat a bunch of table sugar. No one is saying that. But when you look at this, I mean, this speaks volumes. Very high carbohydrate, very, very low, like almost rock bottom fat, produce the longest lifespans. And when people say, well, life is everything about quality of life, well, they have low diseases. Okay? You don't think the dietary fat's a factor in America and our health problems? Of course it is. Obviously refined sugars. But all the fat and the refined sugar, that's what's killing us. Again, your solution is not to get rid of carbohydrates. Again, I almost feel like I need to make some topics on that. The solution is not to get rid of vegetables, carnivores. But this is a perfect example. I mean, you take this society of how long they lived with such a low disease. Right, this tells us a lot. This tells us a lot. And it's not like it doesn't match the data. It's not like it's shocking. It's not like everyone doesn't already know humans prefer carbohydrates as a fuel source, as a species. We don't particularly like to burn fat as a fuel source. We can do it because we're so metabolically adaptive. It's really not optimal for us. Right? It isn't. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.